All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to do and a little time to do it in. You guys probably hear me say that multiple times a week, and today is no different. Hopefully you guys have your thinking caps on. Let's roll. All right, so the title of today's lesson is, I'm going with the Rocky and Bullwinkle theme. Like, you know how like Rocky and Bullwinkle would have like 2 episode titles for what they're doing, you know? So the Expanse Within, or as the fish swims through the sea in a certain sense is also contained within the fish. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Today's scripture comes from 1 Corinthians 12, 18 through 20. 14, 18 through 20. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot should say, because I'm not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I'm not an eye, I do not belong to the body, what? And would not make it any less a part of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing? If the whole body were an ear, where would be the sense of smell? But as it is, God arranged the members in the body, each of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts, yet one body. And then skipping forward, if one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. All right. So let's go ahead. This is my boy, Bronson. He is an extraordinaire a man of many talents. He, as you can see, looks just like me with blonde hair, blue eyes. Jeans are a crazy thing. And we'll get more into that actually later. This is for Mr. Closera if he listens in on the podcast. One of his favorite stories about Bronson is when he was here at the kids club after school. Miss Marisa saw Bronson walking around with his shoes on the wrong feet. And she said, Bronson, your shoes are on the wrong feet. And Bronson is a thinker. Like, he always has 2 fingers in his mouth, and he's always thinking. So he pulls his fingers out of her mouth, looks her dead in the eye, and he says, if it doesn't bother me, it shouldn't bother you. And which is exactly what we taught him to say to his brother and sister, and his brother and sister to say to him when they try to police each other's actions. All right. So anyways, this picture of him holding this big flounder was actually a perfect example of Bronson continuing his own path. So while we were getting ready to go fishing off the dock, Bronson was like, I want to go ahead and throw a corn cob out in the water. And we're like, Bronson, you're not going to catch anything with a corn cob, you know? And then he was like, but we needed to keep him preoccupied as we're loading rods and reels, you know, and rigging up. So we let Bronson go ahead and do that. And then all of a sudden, Bronson has this little Mickey Mouse rod and reel. Then all of a sudden, it bows over. And we're like, what's going on? He's like, I got a fish. And we're like, he's snagged on the bottom. He has a corn cob. And all of a sudden we see it like jolting. So like we help Bronson reel it in, and he pulls up. It was a 24-inch flounder. It was like the biggest flounder my father-in-law's ever caught, let alone his only flounder he caught off corn cobs. So Bronson definitely goes to his own path, does his own thing. And as you can see, he looks just like me. And genes, genetics are a crazy thing. So let's go ahead. I'm going to need your participation later on, but we're going to go do a quick adventure through math to kind of talk about how awesome the universe is. And that hopefully creates context for us to see like how much bigger God is. All right. So let's go ahead and get going. Magnitudes of 10. All right. So let's go ahead. So the number 1 is no magnitudes of 10. So therefore, when you write 10 or 1 out in scientific notation, it is 1.0 times 10 to the 0. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and go to the next magnitude of 10. We got 10 is 1 magnitude of 10. Therefore, in scientific notation, it is 1.0 times 10 to the to the 1. Fantastic. You guys are quick learners. Let's go. 100 is 2 magnitudes of 10. 10 times 10 equals 100. All right. So when you write that in scientific notation, it is 1.0 times 10 to the second. Moving on. 1,000 is 3 magnitudes of 10. 10 times 10 times 10 equals 1,000. Very good. And so when you write that in scientific notation, it is 1.0 times 10 to the third. 10,000 is 4 magnitudes of 10. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. When you write that in scientific notation, it is 1.0 times 10 to the fourth. All right. Therefore, pop quiz, ladies and gentlemen. How would you write out 1 million in scientific notation? 10 to the 6th. You guys are geniuses. Give yourselves a round of applause. You guys are awesome. All right. 1 million. But what is 1 million? When you think about 1 million, you hear like, oh yeah, this house is $1 million. What, 1 million, 1 million. Like that, we throw those numbers around without any conceptual framework to understand how big these numbers get. So let's talk about this. All right. So 1 million seconds. Oops, did I go back one? All right, so, yes, okay. So 1 million seconds is 11 days, 13 hours, 46 minutes, and 40 seconds. So 1 million seconds from now will be 11:45 on Monday, February 17th. We'll be on ski week when we have 1 million seconds from now, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and take a peek at this. So if we start now at 8:55, that was 4 minutes ago. If we start now at 8:55 and go 1 million seconds into the future, that'll be 10:42 p.m. on ski week. I already have my alarm set for when 1 million seconds from now is going to occur. All right. And I'll be actually in the airport taking a ride to Costa Rica. So me and my wife are going to go on a surf trip. So surf week. Zeros, they mean nothing. But in math, when you add a couple zeros, something goes crazy. All right, so 1 million seconds is 11 days, 13 hours, 46 minutes, and 40 seconds. But how long is a billion seconds? How? All right, how about if we do this in scientific notation? How big what would 1 billion be in scientific notation? To the 9th, very good, yes. So, therefore, 1 billion is 1.0 times 10 to the 9. 1 billion seconds, though, let's look at this. This is something cool. This is something crazy, ladies and gentlemen. This is my wife, Erin Baldwin, and these are my two of my kids. All right, this is Eden, that's Jude. This was before they got lights last spring, and they had to chop their hair. Like, I'm sorry, it happens. But anyways, so this is my wife and my two of my three. Eden and Jude, my oldest Bronson, I think was in school at this time. She was born October 28, 1985. All right. Let's look at her life in terms of 1 billion seconds. So 1 million seconds is just shy of 12 days. So we go through the late 80s. We go through the early 90s. Keep going. We go through the mid-90s and all the bad hair associated with that. We go through the early 2000s. My wife's now in high school, doing high school things. And then in 2000, April to 2008, on the 12th, sorry, I'm bad these days. My wife is so good these days. This is when we meet for the first time at a wedding, at my friend's wedding. We get married on 7/7/12. All right, so July 7. Keep going. So she goes through high school. She goes through college. She meets me. There we go. That's our wedding day. All right, so that's when we were young, and we loved each other. We still love each other, but marriage is good. It makes the love stronger and deeper, and it's like crazy. So this is us. We had no idea what we're getting into. All right. So we keep going. That my wife's billion second was on our 5th anniversary. So that is such a crazy coincidence. Like my wife's billion, she turned 1 billion seconds old on our 5th anniversary, and I threw her a party. I got 9 log cakes, because, if any math jokes out there, but I got her 9 log cakes, and we had a 1 billion second party for her, and on our anniversary. It was fantastic. All right, so 1 billion seconds is 31 years, 8 months, 11 days, 13 hours, 34 minutes, and 40 seconds. Numbers get really big really fast when you start talking about the exponents. All right. Math can appreciate how big life is. All right. So DNA is a universal language of biological information built on 4 letters: A's, T's, G's, and C's. All right. And you can take human DNA and put it into a bacteria, and the bacteria knows exactly what to do. Oh, all right, here's some proteins to code. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and do this. And this is how we get insulin. We're able to put the code for insulin in the bacteria, and bacteria can just produce it. And that's how we are able to, one of the ways that we can farm insulin. All right. The number of combinations for a DNA sequence length can be calculated using this equation, 4 to the x. So 4 to the x, if you use that equation, that would tell you the number of combinations in a DNA sequence. So, for example, where x is the length of sequence. So, for example, if you want to know how many combinations are available for a sequence of 1, we simply write 4 to the 1. 4 to the 1 equals 4. Geniuses. All right, moving on. Let's talk about possible combinations for a 2-length base pair sequence. Our equation will be 4 to the squared, 16. Fantastic. And there's every possible combination for a 2-length sequence. Moving on. Let's play a game, ladies and gentlemen. All right. How far would my DNA stretch if we pulled all the DNA out from my cells and stacked them end to end? A, would they go to Marco Forster? B, would they go to Stonehill Drive? C, would they go to the harbor? Or D, further? Further, yes, further. All right, that you answered correctly. Let's go. How far would the DNA in all my cells if detangled and stretched out end to end? Albuquerque. Kansas City Chiefs, anyone? Oh, wow. All right. Moving on. 100 miles past Philadelphia. Philadelphia Eagles. Any Eagles? All right. Or D, further. Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. You're correct. All right, let's go another scale bigger. How far would the DNA in all of my cells be stretched end to end? 600 miles past Hawaii. 27 miles short of the Japan shoreline. C, Japan after circling the globe 3 times. Or D, further. Further. You guys are correct. Holy smokes, this is crazy. Let's go. So how far would the DNA in all my cells, if detangled and stretched end to end, would they go to the sun, which is 93 million miles away? To Saturn, which is 971 million miles away? To Neptune, which is 2.8 billion miles away? Or D, further? Oh my gosh, you guys have answered correctly. All right, so the average body has 37 trillion cells. I think I missed a couple of zeros, sorry. Each cell contains 2 meters of genetic information, which means that in our cells, we have roughly anywhere from 45 to 67 billion miles of genetic information inside of us. All right? So when you guys collect basketball cards and you see the height of Anthony Davis, all right? Anthony Davis, 6'11", defensive beast. Cool, 6'11". That's cute. I got 37 astronomical units in me, all right? So we are massive inside. All right, so that would go to the sun, to Pluto, and back several times. All right, so that is how much genetic information that we have inside of us. All right. So the number of combinations for our DNA sequence within us, 37 with 3 billion base pairs, 4 to the 3 billion is a number so big that ChatGPT couldn't answer. So it gave me a rough approximation. And this number is so big, let me go ahead and scale this down for a second. Can I get a volunteer, please? I need one volunteer. Daniel, can you come up here and shuffle this deck of cards? You can go ahead and just shuffle it right there. All right. Just give me a shuffle. You got 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, Daniel right here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, can we give Daniel a round of applause? Because what Daniel just did has never occurred in the history of humanity or ever will. Is because the number of combinations of cards or a combination that this deck can be shuffled is this number up there. Or I wrote the scientific notation for it is 8.066 times 10 to the 67. So that is a huge number. Now, if we turn that into seconds, so we turn 1 billion into seconds, right? If we turn that into seconds, let's talk about something. Things about to get weird. All right. So what I want you guys to do is to imagine that if we turn that number 8.066 times 10 to the 60 seconds into 67th in seconds, it would look like this. I would take let's say we start off Ivory Coast in Africa, right near the equator, and imagine there was an imaginary bridge that went all the way around the earth, okay? So we can just walk. You would take a step, wait 1 billion years. Take the next step. Wait 1 billion years. And you keep doing that all the way around the world till you get back to where you started at Ivory Coast. And then, with your handy dandy spoon, you take a little bit of the ocean, drink it, and then you start over. One step every billion years. Next step every billion years. And then you come back to the ocean. Take another spoon. All right. Oh, that was a long journey. And then, when the ocean is completely drained, grab a piece of paper, put it on the ground. The oceans refill. You start over again. 1 billion seconds, 1 billion years every step. Do that again. Every time you drain the ocean, you put another piece of paper down. Bam. When this stack of paper gets to the sun, keep going and bring it back down to 0. And then when you do this 10,000 times, you're still not even close to how many seconds that number is, 8.066 times 10 to the 67th. All right? And that's just a deck of cards with 52 pieces in it. Now, we're talking about DNA that has 3 billion base pairs to it. So each person, you are a mathematical 0. The odds of you occurring with the exact genetic sequence that you have is astronomically small. But theologically, you are everything. Here in this story that Paul is talking about, he's saying that the hand is getting frustrated that it wants to be something else, or the eye is getting frustrated, or the other body parts are looking at each other and they're like, I wish I could be that. I wish I could be this. I wish I could be that. And they are not satisfied. And I think so often we get so caught up trying to live the wrong story. We were meant to live a completely different story than the ones we often get caught up doing. And then we don't understand why our lives are frustrated. We don't understand why our relationships are crumbling. But we are called to something beautiful. And God created us all as beautiful. But all too often, we are reading the wrong script. The parts aren't happy. And so often we try to live the wrong story. And then we get this understanding that maybe our value and worth is derived by how I rank or compete against somebody else. Oh man, that person's smarter. That person's better looking. That person's more popular. They have more money. This, that. And we just end up tearing ourselves apart. But the whole time God created us. And what did he say in Genesis 1 when he was creating, especially when he created man and woman? He was like, it is good. It is good. But so often we get caught up in this competitive framework and we see ourselves and our worth based upon those around us. And oftentimes, we forget that we are the image bearers of God. You know, the only difference between the $1 bill and the $100 bill is the image it bears. But all too often, we forget that we are image bearers of God, worth infinite. And instead, we see ourselves for what we lack, or we see ourselves for what we aren't instead of what we are. And we end up comparing ourselves to other people. I want to be this. I want to be that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be better. But if what is driving you is hurt and pain, then more is never going to be enough. You can have all the money in the world and you still won't be satisfied. I need to work more. I need to work harder. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to be better about my investments, or you can, and the same thing can apply to other areas, whether it's sports skills or how attractive we want to be or how funny and popular we want to be. Like we end up just tearing each other down. And God's like, guys, you are bearing my image. You guys are worth so much. But like the hand that isn't satisfied with it because it's not an eye, we are following the wrong story. And a beautiful connection is lost when we do this. Going back to I'm hitting the laser button. All right. If one member suffers, all suffer together. And if one member is honored, all rejoice together. And this is for me in Matthew, when Jesus is teaching on anger in Matthew 5 is for me one of the hardest and most intense lessons in the New Testament. You have heard it said to those of old that you should not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. So if you are offering your gift at the altar and you remembered that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come offer your gift. And so many times we show up at the church on Sunday morning and we sing to God, and then Monday through Friday we treat everyone in our life like trash with our words and with our actions. And then we go to church. And what Jesus is saying here is that if this isn't right, our horizontal relationships with each other, then our vertical relationship, our relationship with God, can't be as healthy as it should be. It's the small, mundane details of our lives that are acts of worship to God. How we treat each other, how I love my kids, how I participate on my sports team, that is an act of worship. So Jesus is saying, no, don't make your offering to God first. Go fix that stuff that you're doing, like where you're using your words to destroy people and you're using your words to belittle people so you can feel good about yourself. Jesus is saying, no, fix that. And then you can have true, authentic, thick relationship with God and not like a Sunday morning thing. So, in summary, as you guys know, I love the Good and Special book. So in the ESV, it says, if one suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. But I love what the Jesus book or the Good and Special book says. It says, if one part of the body suffer, all the other parts suffer same time. If one part of the body stay awesome, all the other parts feel good same time. And I think there's something beautiful about that. Is that we are so interconnected, and that when we cry together and we can laugh together, and we are meant to be one body, not separate parts trying to be each other's position or each other's role, but God created us in unity and in diversity, and there's something beautiful about that. So in summary, I love this quote by Augustine. It says that you have made us for yourself. Our hearts are restless until they are found a rest in you. And I just pray that you guys will stop reading the script that society as a whole tries to give you, that you have to be this or that to be satisfied and content and happy. But may your heart find this resting place in God. And in there, you will be happy and filled and living your best life and stay good to the max. Amen. All right, let me go ahead and close with some prayer. So Father in heaven, I thank you for this day. I just pray for your blessings over these students, God, and I pray that you will help us to be mindful of just the unity and the diversity that is around us. And there's something beautiful about that. And I pray, Lord, that we will stop comparing ourselves to others and to find our hearts in you so that we may be content and live an authentic life before you. We thank you for this day. Amen.
This episode has been a production of the Capistrano Valley Christian Schools Podcast Network. Capistrano Valley Christian Schools is a Christian JK-12 school in San Juan Capistrano, California. Be sure to check out, subscribe to, and leave a review of this show and the other shows on our network on your podcast player of choice. Doing so supports the school community in a multitude of ways. For more information about the CVCS Podcast Network or any of our other shows, check out cvcs.org or email podcasts@cvcs.org. On behalf of the whole network, this is Mr. Jasper saying thank you again for listening and stay tuned for more.